Cheong-san was sleeping when he felt a shift next to him. His eyes were still closed, and he felt his blood go cold. He had been in a sleepless slumber, but he didn't know for how long, but judging by his stiff hands and how painful his eyes felt, he could think it was a few hours at best. He felt another shift next to him, sending a shiver down his spine as he remembered the recent events that had taken place. He remembered where he was as the monsters attacked. He had thought before to call them zombies, but had waited to see how they were made. With that train of thought now backing him up, he remembered that he had gotten into a room with the others before going after Na-Yeon and being trapped in a room together. So what was this next to him? He asked himself. Better yet, was it who he thought it was? Moments later, he felt slender arms wrap tightly around him and a face press into his neck. He stiffened momentarily, but that soon calmed as he felt the small, gentle breaths and a contented sigh and hum come from the presence next to him. That confirmed to him this wasn't a zombie and finally gave him the courage to open his eyes. He looked at the blanket, then slowly down to the person who had their arms wrapped around him and his seemingly around them. The person's face was buried in his neck, but enough of it was out as he slowly went to remove the hair covering their face. He saw the peaceful face of Na-Yeon sleeping as she started to grumble, seeking his warmth again after he had moved away to get a better look. He didn't want to wake her as he slowly settled back down, and she pressed her face back into his neck. But his hand that had moved her hair out of her face remained on her head. She shifted closer, throwing her leg over him, seemingly trying to get ever closer to the comfort she was getting, even if there was no distance between them, and he unconsciously tightened his hold on her waist. A part of Cheong-san wanted to wake her up because it had been a few hours at best, but she had gotten the rest she wanted. But another part of him, a louder part, kept telling him to let her get as much sleep as possible. He blamed it on his mom, telling him to always protect the women in his life whenever he and Anjo fought when they were kids. That caused him to smile a bit, thinking about his mom and her obsession with fried chicken, but the smile soon faded as reality set in. His mom was alone somewhere in the city, and he didn't know if she was okay. He held Na-Yeon tighter and tighter till she let out a groan of discomfort, which immediately made him loosen his grip on her. He started to gently stroke her hair to calm her down, and before long her breathing evened out as she relaxed into his hold. Cheong-san wondered how his friends were doing on the other floor. He hoped that they were okay and not doing anything stupid. Anjo would probably be trying to get to him, but hopefully the others would be there to stop her from doing anything harsh. He knew that he had to get everyone out of there. A lot of people were relying on him, even Na-Yeon. He continued stroking her hair as she slept, doing his best in his head to lay out plans on how they could escape. Every time Na-Yeon moved slightly, he glanced down at her. His eyes always stayed glued to her face before he looked away. But he continued to glance down at her constantly, as if taking in her features for the first time, but constantly reminding himself of what she had done. It would have been hard to believe that someone that looked so innocent right now had been capable of such actions, so he had to keep reminding himself. He thought back to Jong-soo. His best friend would probably be happier for him that he was cuddling a girl more than her being his actual murderer. The thought simply brought another smile to his face. He would probably take credit for this saying, how he had been a good wingman to the end, the idiot. But he loved that idiot. He kept smiling as he continued to think of his best friend and how he was going to get out of here and save his mom, save everyone. Na-Yeon had woken up not too long ago, and she felt rested but could use more sleep. She had remembered her situation rather quickly. The small panic that she had before was immediately calmed by who she could only guess was Cheong-san, as he gently stroked her hair, whispering soft reassurances into her head. She had felt herself pressed back into the crook of his neck as she relaxed. She kept her eyes closed as she let out a contented sigh into his neck. She felt him shudder, but he never let her go and kept stroking her hair. She felt him stiffen momentarily and tighten his hold on her. She let out a grumble, and he immediately stopped as he went back to stroking her hair distractedly. A few days ago, she could never imagine herself being comforted by Cheong-san, because she was one of the people that was forever mocking him and his friends. Then everything had gone to shit, and she had killed someone just because he wasn't abiding by some pecking order they had in school, as if it was the time. But despite all of that, he had still come to save her, and now he was holding her because she told him she could no longer handle the nightmares. Nightmares that they both knew that she rightfully deserved, but he had accepted it nonetheless. Part of her knew it was because he was struggling to get sleep with her nightmares constantly waking him up, but she had also seen him scramble to wake up after his own. So she knew that they were comforting each other, but she also knew that he was handling it better than she was. He had every right to deny her, but he had accepted, and now he was slowly luring her into another slumber as she was struggling to stay awake. She felt him press his head against hers as he let out a sigh, and moments later they were both asleep once more.